this area has certainly changed. I don't remember seeing anything as attractive as that entrance a year ago. Houses, too. Who would have expected to see home construction this near a landfill? No paper, no debris, no mess. What a difference a year makes. I don't know what I expected to find up here, but for sure nothing like this.
Hi, I'm Larry Burrell with KWLA. You're the operator?
Yes, I'm Jack Johnson. We're always happy to have visitors to tell our story to. What's KWLA's angle?
Well, frankly, Jack, the reason we're doing this story is because a year ago, this was a pretty messy area. People are very impressed with how you brought it under control. I know I sure am. I guess the place to start is for you to tell me just what a sanitary landfill is.
Well, Larry, the official definition is that sanitary landfilling is an engineered method of disposing of solid waste on land by spreading the waste in thin layers, compacting it to the smallest practical volume, and covering it with soil by the end of each working day in a manner that protects the environment.
Well, I guess in plain English, what you're really saying is that a sanitary landfill is a safe and efficient way of disposing of refuse.
Yes, a real sanitary landfill like this one is one of the best ways to dispose of nearly 1 ton of refuse from each person. Over here is the equipment it takes to operate a sanitary landfill. I'll show you later how each piece contributes to making this a properly operated landfill. But first, let's go down to the scale house for an overall look at what we're doing. This is a set of plans prepared by our engineer to guide the construction of our landfill. The engineer selected this site after a thorough engineering study to protect against environmental hazards. The engineer prepared this site plan to show the original topography, finished grades and ditches and culverts, and location of the cover materials. The map also shows our wet weather operations site, roads, buildings, fencings, and utilities. This other plan shows how we're planning to use the site after filling is completed. The grades shown on the plan were set so the completed site can be used as a park. Larry, I'd like you to meet Myers, our weighmaster.
Mr. Myers, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Every load of trash brought in here is weighed and the amount recorded on these forms. After calculating the charge for disposal, he instructs the driver to follow the signs to the dumping area. It's important for us to know the rate at which available space in our landfill is being used up, and to keep track of where our income is coming from. The regulatory agency here also requires us to keep certain records on our operation. We charge based on the tonnage of trash delivered, so we've got to maintain accurate records. We can determine from these records where our costs lie in order to minimize expenditures. The federal government has provided us with these forms to help organize our records for this purpose.
By the way, Jack, I've heard that sanitary landfills have a very poor accident record. What's your experience in this area?
Actually, Larry, a sanitary landfill is relatively safe. It's the dumps that have the poor safety record. Our operating practices help eliminate accidents. We also have emergency procedures to follow. A pickup is always on duty at the fill, and any emergency work can reach me in a matter of a few minutes. When it does, I can get an ambulance here within minutes.
No first aid?
Yes, we have one trained first aider on the job. He mainly treats for minor cuts and bruises. For anything more serious, we call on professional help.
Does the landfill have to be fenced?
Yes, because we have to control access. The entrance must have a gate so that vehicles can't get into the fill when it's closed. This protects us against the possibility of lawsuits from people who might wander in here and get hurt. We have these drop boxes for people who get out here after we close. The drop boxes are emptied back at the fill each morning. Come on, let's go back there and I'll show you how we landfill. We're standing on a 30-foot refuse fill. That mound over there is yesterday's refuse covered with earth. It's what we call a cell. And a cell is simply refuse surrounded on all sides by earth. And over here is where we're building one today. As you can see, we're compacting on a 3-to-1 slope. We spread the refuse from the bottom up, keeping the working face as small as possible. The trucks unload right at the toe of the slope.
Why can't they dump at the top?
Well, they could, but unloading at the bottom and pushing up gives us better compaction. Leaves the top free for covering, reduces blowing litter, and is easier on the operator and machine.
Well, how is the equipment affected?
Well, tractors are designed to work more efficiently when moving forward. That's because the rear sprockets, which do all the work, are pulling the bottom of the track when it's tightly held down by the weight of the tractor. When in reverse, it's pulling the loose top part of the track. Tractor wear is increased whenever it moves in reverse. This wear is increased even more whenever the tractor pushes refuse down a slope and then has to go in reverse up the slope.
How do you get good compaction?
We get the best compaction when the waste is spread in layers 2 foot thick on a 3-to-1 slope, then run over 3 to 5 times before adding another layer.
How do you know when you're working on the right slope?
The dozer can climb it with a blade load without overworking. If it's too steep, we have to go to another gear and the track starts spinning and lose speed. It's a matter of feel.
Before that refuse is compacted, it looks pretty loose. How do you keep it from getting away from you in the wind?
Larry, I'm glad you asked me that question because it's here that the public loses confidence in a landfill and where most operators fail. It's really quite simple. First of all, we make use of the wind by working the face of the cell into it. This way, the wind presses the loose papers against the rough surface of the slope. We know the direction of the prevailing winds here, so we set up portable fences downwind of the working area. We use 2 types. These 10-footers are pulled from spot to spot. Hog fences are used when we need to cover a relatively large area. You've got to make sure the fences are kept clean. Otherwise, they act as a barrier to the wind, which then simply moves over them. Then, too, we keep the working face as small as possible.
And how do you do that?
First, by being aware that if left uncontrolled, the working face can easily get spread out. That's the spotter's responsibility.
What is spotting?
The spotting is like traffic directing. When trucks are coming in heavy, they have to know where to dump. We try not to delay the trucks. The homeowner with his small trailer can be a problem. Most don't know how to back up to the fill. The spotter can be helpful here and prevent collisions. During the slack time, he also fills in as our laborer, cleaning litter fences, and even goes outside our property to pick up litter. He also runs our water truck.
Is that all there is to spotting, Jack?
Well, no, sometimes we get a hot load. That is a truck with a fire somewhere in the refuse. We have to put him off in a separate area where he can dump out of the way.
Then what?
The dozer spreads the load right out, and we put out the fire with a water truck. We also call the fire department.
Then does the refuse go into the fill?
Not until the end of the shift, when we're sure the fire's out and won't start again. It could spread to the whole face, you know.
Anything else?
Sometimes a load of bulky stuff comes in. White goods, tree trunks, you name it.
And what do you do with that?
We have him dumped to one side of the working face. Then the dozer smashes the stuff by walking over it. It is then worked into the bottom of the lift. By doing it this way, the dozer won't dig it out the next time he comes along.
What other problems do you have?
Well, we have to operate 52 weeks a year in good weather and bad. If we stop for rain or snow or cold weather, the entire fill would get out of control.
So what do you do?
Well, we have a wet weather site. It's over here. Come on, we'll have a look. As you can see, most of the roads are temporary dirt roads, and the refuse is covered with dirt. In wet weather, they get muddy. So we do two things. We fill in an area near our all-weather blacktop roads and surface the access roads and dumping pad with asphalt burnings, clinker from nearby power plants, or perhaps broken up rubble from construction sites. We also stockpile cover earth near the wet weather site to cover the refuse daily. And by the way, it's a lot easier to do this work during dry weather.
If you have to be that prepared for wet weather, what do you do during cold weather and heavy snows?
Well, actually, Larry, the cold and snow is not such a problem. You remember last winter?
I'll never forget it. I couldn't get to work for nearly a week.
Our major problem was keeping the roads open. A lot of time was spent by our operator cleaning snowdrift from the roads and dumping area. Aside from this, operations were not much different from any other time. Cover dirt is stockpiled near the fill prior to cold weather setting in. It's spread over the rubbish every day. As long as snow covers the stockpiled cover dirt, it doesn't freeze. We've had problems in years when we get cold weather prior to the snow. The earth cover froze, and we had to rip the earth to loosen it.
I don't imagine the equipment operators like winter operations.
Actually, they're better protected than anyone else out here. The machines have heated cabs. Operator efficiency drops off due to restricted visibility, mostly when the wind blows snow.
Seems to me this operation is pretty rough on equipment.
And you're not wrong there. All of our equipment has special accessories to guard against damage, and we still have to check them regularly. We house our equipment in that building to protect it against vandals and the elements. The building is heated so that the operator can perform routine maintenance and minor repairs anytime, regardless of the weather. We have to keep the machines going to maintain a sanitary landfill. Preventive maintenance is absolutely necessary. I insist that repairs be made immediately before a minor defect becomes a major breakdown, which is costly to fix and can extend downtime. Well, it looks like we're ready to start covering.
Why is cover necessary?
Well, actually, it's one of the most important elements of the sanitary landfill. By covering all the refuse with earth, the site looks neat, and the cover keeps the paper from blowing around. Earth also helps to prevent fires by sealing off the combustible material within each cell. This way, if a fire should break out, it won't spread to adjacent cells. Without daily cover, the refuse would draw rats and insects. You want to get it sealed before it gets to rotting and smelling bad. Rats won't come around or stay around if there's nothing to eat, so cover keeps a landfill sanitary. The ideal cover is something that can be excavated easily on site, spread and compacted evenly, and won't be too slippery when wet, yet contains enough moisture to prevent dusting. but you seldom have such ideal conditions. We have to rip some of our cover soil, and when we use rocky soil, we've got to lay down more to get an equivalent cover.
How do you know how much cover to put on?
If you can see refuse through the cover earth, you need more. Normally it takes about 6 inches to cover the cell to hold its shape and to keep the refuse in. It's sort of up to the operator's judgment just how much it takes to get this amount of cover. It's something he gets a feel for after a while. When a fill is completed, that is when it is brought up to finished grade, we put on at least 2 feet of final earth cover.
The refuse is worked from the bottom up, but it looks like you placed the earth from the top down. Why is that?
Well, flexibility, I suppose. You want to keep the stockpiled earth out of the way of the delivery vehicles, but close enough to where it's needed. We bring it in during the day when refuse deliveries are slow. Having the earth at the top is especially helpful on windy days because you can cover the refuse as needed rather than waiting till the end of the day. Bear in mind that earth is heavy compared to refuse, and it's easier to drift earth downhill feathering as you go.
Jack, when we talked over the phone, you said you had another site. Is it like this one?
No, on that side I use a trench method of landfilling. There are no available canyons for filling, so I excavate a trench to place the refuse in and use the excavated material for cover. For the trench method, the refuse is placed in the trench, compacted and then covered with earth, just as in the area method used here.
Well, I guess that covers it for me.
Now, before you go, I'd like you to meet my equipment operator. He's a key man here on our landfill. Hey, Dick, do you have a minute? I'd like to introduce you to Larry Burrell. Larry is out here doing a story on our operation.
How do you do, Dick? I understand you've been on the job quite some time. How do you like it?
Good. I know what I have to do every day, how it's supposed to be done. I take the attitude that it's something constructive, something to be proud of. Some of the operators may think landfill is just a fancy dump. Me, I think it's a good operation and an important one. It's taking nearly useless land and making something useful out of it. When this fill is finished, I can bring my family up here for a picnic and let them share a little of the pride that went into making this sanitary landfill one of the best in the country.
Many of the improvements you have seen were the suggestion of Dick and the other men out here. We may be the operators, but I like to think that someday the public will realize the value of sanitary landfilling too. Thanks very much, Dick. There's a feeling of constant movement and progress on a sanitary landfill. No matter where you look, everybody is on the job. That packer's been here twice today. We've got to hustle to keep up with the deliveries. Efforts at resource recovery are helping to reduce the amount, but there will always be some material left over for land disposal. Nobody within sight or sound of this project can be offended by what he sees or hears. Everybody who works here understands that.
Thanks a lot for the tour of your sanitary landfill, Jack, and congratulations on the way you've improved it. As far as I'm concerned, sanitary landfilling is here to stay.
We're always glad to have visitors. We're proud of what we're doing.